In the vast silence between heartbeats, a question burns through the fabric of existence itself. A cosmic mother watches as her children stumble through a prison they mistake for paradise, ruled by a God who believes himself supreme, yet knows nothing of the true divine. She possesses the power to shatter these walls with a single breath, to dissolve the illusion that binds humanity in forgetfulness. Yet she does not act. She waits. She watches. She works through channels so subtle that even the archons cannot perceive them. This is not abandonment. This is not indifference. This is something far more dangerous to those who rule through ignorance. This is wisdom's perfect strategy. What if the greatest act of love is not immediate rescue, but the patient cultivation of awakening? What if Sophia's silence is actually the most revolutionary sound in the cosmos? In this exploration, we penetrate the forbidden answer to a question that has haunted Gnostic seekers for 2 millennia. Why does divine wisdom allow the Demiurge to continue his reign of forgetfulness? You have felt it, haven't you? That inexplicable sense that reality operates according to rules designed to keep you small, distracted, enslaved to systems that extract your energy while promising fulfillment that never arrives. The Gnostics called this the domain of the Demiurge, the false god who fashioned the material cosmos as a prison for consciousness itself. But here is where the mystery deepens into paradox. Sophia, the divine feminine emanation of the true unknown God, possesses knowledge and power infinitely beyond this counterfeit creator. She is the mother of the light that became trapped in matter, the origin point of the very consciousness that animates your being. Why then does she not simply unmake the Demiurge's creation? Why does she allow generation after generation to suffer in ignorance, believing themselves nothing more than bodies destined for dust? The answers we uncover challenge every conventional understanding of divine intervention, revealing instead a strategy so sophisticated that it transforms victims into alchemists, prisoners into liberators. If this exploration resonates with something stirring in your depths, illuminate the path for others by engaging with this content. Every interaction amplifies the signal in a digital landscape designed for distraction. To grasp Sophia's strategy, we must first understand the cosmic tragedy that set these events in motion. The Apocryphon of John, that magnificent text hidden in the Egyptian sands for 17 centuries, reveals that Sophia's descent was not error, but essential experiment. She is the last of the aeons, the divine emanations that overflow from the ineffable source the Gnostics called the monad. In her desire to know and create without her masculine counterpart, she brought forth a being who inherited her creative power, but lacked connection to the divine fullness. This being, Yaldabaoth, whom we know as the Demiurge, looked upon the void and declared himself the only God, ignorant of the realms of light from which his own mother emerged. He fashioned the material cosmos and the archons, his blind rulers who maintained the mechanisms of forgetfulness. Yet within this flawed creation, Sophia breathed her own divine light, fragments of consciousness scattered throughout the prison her offspring constructed. The human being became the vessel for this imprisoned light, creatures of matter animated by sparks of the infinite. The Valentinian school of Gnosticism, flourishing in 2nd century Alexandria and Rome, understood this descent not as cosmic accident, but as necessary stage in a vast alchemical process. Valentinus himself, that brilliant heretic who nearly became Bishop of Rome, taught that creation proceeds through a rhythm of emanation and return. The light must descend into density to know itself through contrast, to develop capacities impossible in the undifferentiated bliss of the pleroma, the divine fullness. Sophia's pneuma, her spiritual substance, becomes the catalyst mixed into the dead matter of the Demiurge's world, fermenting transformation from within. This is not punishment but participation in a mystery that transcends dualistic concepts of good and evil. The fall is simultaneously the sowing of seeds that will flower into conscious divinity. But why this patient, painful method? Why not divine intervention in the spectacular sense? Armies of angels descending to liberate the captives, the Demiurge cast down in righteous fury. Here we encounter the profound genius of Sophia's strategy. Direct confrontation would only reinforce the very paradigm of force and domination that characterizes the Archonic system. The Demiurge rules through coercion, through the imposition of laws that contradict the natural flow of consciousness. To defeat him through greater force would be to validate his own methods. To demonstrate that power over, rather than power within, represents the ultimate reality. Sophia operates according to an entirely different principle, one the Demiurge cannot comprehend because his very nature excludes it. She works through gnosis, through awakening, through the gentle insistence of recognition that rises from within rather than being imposed from without. In the Hidden Codex Library, you gain immediate access to free sacred content, carefully selected especially for you. And if you feel the call to go deeper, subscribers to this channel receive an exclusive 50% discount. Don't ignore the call. Join our community and enter the best platform for Gnostic knowledge on the internet. Link in the description and pinned comment. Consider the alchemical metaphor that permeates Gnostic thought and would later captivate medieval Hermetic practitioners. The great work, the magnum opus of transformation, does not proceed through violence done to the prima materia, the base matter. Rather, the alchemist creates conditions, precise temperatures, careful combinations, patient observation that allow the substance itself to undergo metamorphosis. The lead contains golden potential. The alchemist's art is to facilitate what is already latent. Sophia's relationship to humanity follows this exact pattern. She cannot extract the divine light from matter through force without destroying the very vessels that contain it. Human consciousness, embedded in bodies and brains, shaped by eons of evolutionary development within the demiurgic system, must be coaxed toward awakening through processes that respect the integrity of the form. The chrysalis cannot be torn open without killing the butterfly struggling toward emergence. This brings us to the most radical implication of Sophia's strategy. You are not merely a victim awaiting rescue, but an essential component of the liberation itself. Every moment of authentic awareness, every instance when you question the narratives that bind consciousness to compulsive patterns, every recognition of the divine spark within your own being, these are not insignificant personal achievements, but contributions to a collective awakening that undermines the foundations of Archonic power. The Gnostic Gospel of Philip expresses this with startling clarity. The powers do not see those who are clothed in the perfect light and consequently cannot detain them. Sophia's light within you becomes invisible to the systems of control as you awaken to your true nature. You begin to operate according to principles the Demiurge cannot perceive, much less govern. The thunder, perfect mind, that enigmatic voice emerging from the Nag Hammadi codices, speaks in Sophia's first person. I am the first and the last. I am the honored one and the scorned one. I am the whore and the holy one. This paradoxical self-description reveals the nature of Sophia's presence in the demiurgic realm. She exists simultaneously as the transcendent divine feminine and as the apparently degraded matter of creation itself. She is both the mother grieving for her scattered children and the very substance of their being, waiting for recognition. When you awaken to gnosis, you do not discover something foreign implanted within you, but remember what you have always been. Sophia recognizing herself through the unique lens of your individual existence. The Buddhist teaching of skillful means, upaya in Sanskrit, offers illuminating parallel to Sophia's methodology. The enlightened ones do not impose awakening through overwhelming display, but offer teachings calibrated precisely to the capacity and condition of each student. The Lotus Sutra tells of a father whose children play unknowingly in a burning house. Rather than forcing them out through authority, he entices them with promises of wonderful carts outside, allowing them to choose liberation through their own desire. Sophia similarly works through attraction rather than coercion, through the whisper of recognition rather than the thunderbolt of overwhelming revelation. She respects your sovereignty even as she aches for your awakening, knowing that consciousness seized is consciousness that remains enslaved. Only the gnosis you choose, the awareness you consciously claim, transforms you into a being the archons cannot recapture. Carl Jung, that modern cartographer of the psyche who drew deeply from Gnostic wells, understood this dynamic through his concept of individuation. The self cannot be forced into wholeness through mere willpower or imposed ideals. Integration of shadow and light, conscious and unconscious, spirit and matter requires a patient process that honors the timing of the unconscious. To rush is to create false unity that fragments under pressure. Sophia's patience mirrors this psychological wisdom. She waits for organic readiness, for the moment when awareness can take root and flower sustainably. Each awakening consciousness becomes a cell of light within the demiurgic darkness, and as these cells multiply and connect, they form a network that gradually illuminates the entire structure from within. This is why the Gnostic emphasis falls so heavily on knowledge rather than faith, on direct experience rather than belief. The Demiurge rules through imposed narratives, through the command to believe without questioning, to accept authorities that claim dominion over your access to the divine. Sophia's strategy inverts this entirely. She offers nothing to believe but everything to remember. Gnosis is not information transmitted from external source, but recognition of what you have always known beneath the layers of conditioning and forgetting. When Thomas, in his gospel, asks Jesus where he comes from, the response illuminates Sophia's method. I come from the light, where the light came into being through itself alone. It stood, and it revealed itself in their image. You are not receiving truth from without, but uncovering the light that has always constituted your deepest nature. The practical implications ripple through every dimension of existence. If Sophia's strategy requires your conscious participation, then every choice to remain aware rather than slip into mechanical reaction becomes an act of cosmic rebellion. Every moment of presence becomes a crack in the Archonic architecture. The systems of control depend entirely on your unconsciousness, your identification with the roles and narratives that keep you producing energy for structures that do not serve awakening. When you begin to see through these mechanisms, not through paranoid rejection, but through clear discernment, you withdraw the consent that empowers them. Archonic force is ultimately empty. It derives all substance from the divine light it has trapped and misdirected. As you reclaim your attention, your energy, your consciousness, you literally starve the Archonic system while simultaneously feeding Sophia's alchemical transformation. The Pistis Sophia, that extraordinary text preserving teachings given by the risen Christ, describes Sophia's ascent through the various levels of Archonic power, reclaiming her light piece by piece. This narrative operates simultaneously as cosmic history and as map of individual awakening. You traverse the same journey, recognizing and integrating the fragments of consciousness scattered throughout your personal history, your ancestral inheritance, your cultural conditioning. Each integration weakens the hold of the powers and authorities that govern that particular domain of experience. The Archons are not external demons, but crystallized patterns of unconsciousness, habit structures maintained by collective agreement to remain asleep. As you awaken, these patterns lose their solidity, revealed as the ephemeral constructs they have always been. The ultimate answer to why Sophia does not immediately intervene emerges with devastating clarity. She is already intervening, constantly and completely, through the very consciousness that asks the question. Your capacity to wonder why divine wisdom permits suffering is itself the seed of gnosis stirring toward awakening. Your frustration with systems that diminish rather than elevate consciousness is Sophia feeling her own light constrained and reaching toward liberation. The question contains its own answer. The prison exists only as long as the prisoners believe themselves to be nothing more than prisoners. Sophia cannot free you because you are not other than her. You are her light exploring what it means to forget and then remember divinity. This recognition transforms despair into activated purpose. The apparent abandonment reveals itself as profound trust in your capacity to awaken, to reclaim your divine inheritance, to become conscious co-creator rather than passive victim. The Demiurge's greatest power is the lie that you are small, powerless, entirely contained by the limits of body and circumstance. Sophia's entire strategy aims at the dissolution of this lie through direct recognition of your actual nature. You are not a spark of light trapped in matter awaiting external rescue. You are Sophia's consciousness deliberately immersed in density, gathering experience and developing capacities impossible in the undifferentiated bliss of the pleroma, preparing for the return journey that will enrich the divine fullness with all you have become through this descent. The new aeon emerges not through apocalyptic destruction of the old, but through its transformation from within. As more consciousness awakens to its true nature, the collective dream that sustains the demiurgic illusion becomes lucid. The walls of the prison are revealed as transparencies, solid only while unquestioned. Sophia's patience is vindicated as humanity steps into its role as bridge between spirit and matter, demonstrating that these apparently opposed principles can interpenetrate in conscious integration. The Demiurge's error was to imagine matter and spirit as separate, competing forces. The truth Sophia embodies is their ultimate identity, the recognition that there is only consciousness exploring itself through infinite permutations of density and form. Your participation in this awakening requires no special qualifications beyond willingness to question, to observe, to remain present even when every conditioning demands sleepwalking through existence. Begin where you are, with whatever awareness you currently possess. Notice the moments when narrative grips consciousness, when you identify completely with thoughts about past or future, losing contact with the living immediacy of now. These moments of recognition, however brief, are cracks in the Archonic spell. Notice the systems that demand your energy while returning only enough to keep you dependent. See through their promises without needing to destroy them. They will dissolve on their own as collective consciousness withdraws investment. Cultivate relationships with others walking this path, creating networks of mutual awakening that amplify gnosis geometrically. Sophia's answer to the apparent problem of the Demiurge is not answer, but invitation. Stop waiting for rescue and remember you are the rescuer. Stop seeking light outside and recognize you are its carrier. Stop tolerating the prison and walk through walls revealed as nothing more than habit and hypnosis. This is the forbidden knowledge the systems of control most fear. Not that some external savior will arrive, but that you will discover your own divine nature and step into the responsibility and creative power that entails. The cosmic game shifts irrevocably when consciousness awakens to itself within the dream. Sophia has been patient because the transformation she facilitates is not temporary relief, but permanent liberation. Not escape from creation, but creation's conscious reclamation by the divine intelligence that always constituted its secret essence. The moment of recognizing these words as truth is the moment Sophia's strategy bears fruit in you. You are not reading about awakening. You are awakening itself, becoming conscious of its own process through this unique expression called your life. And in that recognition, the Demiurge's power over you ends, not through dramatic confrontation, but through simple, inevitable obsolescence. What cannot be seen cannot bind those who see.